Hey all you historians! Today we're taking a look at none other than the civilization of Mesopotamia. 5,000 years ago, in 3500 BC, a bunch of people decided they wanted to be cool, so they formed a civilization. No, seriously! The Mesopotamians were the first people in the history of the world to do this, and loads of people wanted to join the cool club too. So they formed their own civilizations. But that's a story for another time. In Greek, Mesopotamia means the land between two rivers, and in this case, the two rivers were the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. From 7000 to 5000 BC, Neolithic settlements began to develop in the region, and over time, they became the centers of early civilization. The first period of Mesopotamian history was that of Sumeria, followed by the Akkadians, or early Babylonia, the Kassites, the Assyrians, and finally the Chaldeans. For more information about this, you should check out your textbooks. The Mesopotamian civilization can be divided into two parts, namely the north, which was known as Assyria, and the south, which was known as Babylon. In turn, you could divide the south into yet another two parts, called Akkad in the north and Sumeria in the south. The founders of the civilization were supposedly the Sumerians from the south, but they weren't quite the earliest people around. As these little settlements started to develop, they became city-states. Some important examples are Ur, Uruk, Eridu, Kish, Assur, and Nippur. They were all pretty much their own little governments with their own armies and politics, and they had really big gates that were a sign of how rich they were. The fancier your gate, the higher you were in the cool club. The heart of the city was called the ziggurat, and it was basically a big temple, marketplace, museum, and government building rolled up into one. So what about the society in Mesopotamia? Just like other early civilizations, the Mesopotamians had two layers of society. The higher class were the rulers. At the top, you had the king, and slightly lower beneath him, the chief priest, the general, and the nobles and aristocrats. The lower class was divided into yet another two parts. The free peoples like farmers, artisans, and traders, and then the slaves, who were prisoners of war. Because there was a king at the top who ruled in the name of a god or gods, we call this society a theocracy. However, the Mesopotamians didn't worship their kings, well, until King Naram-Sin showed up. In fact, he forced everyone to worship him because he built a huge empire and called himself the King of the Four Quarters. The kings played many roles in Mesopotamia society. The kings were the heads of the city-state, chief administrators, military leaders, and the head of the priests and religion. More often than not, they would pick their own family members to hold important posts in the ziggurat. The kings had power over every aspect of government and administration, including land, taxes, trade, and even farming produce. In turn, they were helped by other nobles who were elected to be civil servants. When there was lots of food to go around, people started to realize they could do things other than farming. Suddenly, there were people who went around calling themselves traders and artisans. They didn't just trade in their own city-states, but some even went as far as to the Indus Valley, and they brought back exotic things like gold, bronze, metals, and even wood. People even started to do things like metalworking and pottery, and soon society was flourishing.
Created using Powtoon.